वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा.
Namaste, everybody. Jai Shri Ram. I'm so happy to welcome you all to the final day of the VSI 2021 conference. And I hope everybody has been as inspired by all the projects that we have shown. And we have more coming today, but, I just want to sort of say that, there are so many ways that all of us can contribute. We've learned that, we can do some grassroots advocacy, donate, or help with documentation. And a very important thing, what Sanjay Dixit ji said, narrative building. If there is no Krishna, there is no Arjun. So narrative has been a key component of the subversion that has happened to our civilizational ethos. So today I'm very excited to bring to you one of the projects, which is called the Bharath Gyan project. And, Voltaire famously once said that I am convinced that everything that has come down to us in terms of knowledge has come from the banks of the Ganges. And Voltaire definitely knew something which many of us were not taught in our history books or, told about. Because much of our knowledge was hidden. We've talked about that yesterday, about how the documentation was not, was all taken away, was hidden, was not utilized in our textbooks and whatnot. So, and also the church, through the doctrine of discovery, which they invented, said that there is absolutely no need to acknowledge the source, which the Arabs used to always acknowledge India as the Vishwa Guru and the source of all their knowledge. But when the church decided to create the doctrine of discovery, it was like finders, keepers, losers, weepers, right? So that was the whole structure on which we have sort of studied, the structure on which we have all the media narratives have been created. And that is the way things have been until the invention of the social media platforms. And suddenly, in this information age, nothing can be hidden from us. And I'm so happy to report that Mr. D.K. Hariji and Hema Hariji are doing such phenomenal work for the past 2 decades. And through their Bharath Gyan Trust, they have exposed us to so many wonderful civilizational concepts from the Indian continent, right? And about our own Bharat. And I have been blown away by some of the knowledge pieces that they have shared, and they usually present to us in nuggets. So if anyone has not checked out their channel, Bharath Gyan, please do. But they have come up with this new project called Bharath Gyan project. And may I just say right up front, as they have asked me to, that this is a social entrepreneurship project. Now with the Modi government, the new education policy has a new vertical called the civilizational, civilizational studies. Right. So there is a great opportunity for Bharath Gyan, or the work that they have done, to hopefully be translated into our textbooks, or to be presented to us through some apps or media platforms, things like that. So they really want to capitalize on all of that knowledge base that they have built and create this project, which is a social entrepreneurship project. And they're looking more for, investors and funders, maybe 2 or 3, or, based on how people respond. But that is why we thought this would be a great place for us to promote this narrative building platform and, get everybody to know more about it. So, I really thank them for doing such phenomenal work for so many years, and wishing all the best. So over to you. Welcome, Ms. Hema Hariji and Mr. D.K. Hariji.
Namaste. we welcome you to this presentation of Bharat Gyan. This is Dr. D.K. Hema Hari and I am D.K. Hari. We are the founders of Bharat Gyan, an initiative to study about our Indian civilization, its ethos, its various facets, which includes its global ties. In Bharat Gyan, over the last 20 years, we have been doing a variety of projects, wonderful initiatives, which include, first of all, compiling data about our Indian civilization from an Indic perspective, from a Bharatiya perspective, from a variety of sources, from books, libraries, scholars, discussion groups, meetings, palm leaf manuscripts, old records, and from a range of other elders who have information about this wonderful civilization, this hoary civilization. This wonderfully we have been able to cover, collate, bring together, not just collect but collate in an orderly manner, and which we have again for dissemination, we have put it up in different formats. For example, each day of the year we have an article that relates to the Indian civilization, its connect, its contact, and its contributions. We have also banners for each day of the year. We have banners. All these are available in our Bharat Gyan website as well as in our social media. So depending upon how much time a person is able to allocate, if it's 4 or 5 hours a person is able to allocate, then it's a full book. If a person says, I've got only about 20-30 minutes to allocate, then there's a mini book available. If a person says, no, I've just got about 5 minutes, then you have a short film. If he says, no, I don't even have that, just a couple of minutes, then you got an article to read. Or if he says, no, I don't have all that, I just got about 20 seconds, then there's a banner. So we have a bouquet of products available on the Indian knowledge system that is being placed in the public domain for the last 2 decades.
Now we want to really focus and bring this out in a very concentrated manner and a concerted manner so that we hope to change the narrative about the Bharatiya civilization both within India as well as on the global stage. And therefore we have chosen to name this project Stuti, which is sharing the untold truths of the Indic civilization. And Stuti, as many of you would also understand, in Indic languages also means singing the praise of or hailing the glory of this civilization, which has very sadly been missed out in the narrative of the world for the last at least 2 to 3 centuries. Ever since colonization, we find that the narrative about India has not been painted in the true Bharatiya way, and that is what we hope to change with this project. There have been many noble souls, especially when the freedom movement was on, from then on, who have written a lot to educate people about the true narrative on India. There is a wealth of information which we have mined from these people who have led this civilization out through all the turmoils that we have faced through all these centuries, and we are now trying to present it in the format for today's generation and also to leverage the technologies that permit a wider reach in a very short span of time. So that is what we are trying to aim here in the Stuti project.
Over the last couple of decades, there have been quite a few efforts. Each person, individual group have tried to sort of bring it out in their own ways. While there have been a good few, sadly it's only been a few. And each one of them needs to be respected, appreciated, applauded, and shared a lot more.
So the Stuti project is about creating a positive and a Bharatiya narrative of the Indian civilization for both Indian and global audiences. The project will be located and operated upon from India in Chennai, but the reach is to be global. It is not to complain about the lack of a positive narrative or presence of a wrong narrative about the civilization, but to work towards bringing about a right narrative of the civilization. That is what the Stuti project is about. It is to leverage all the technological developments available today in the field of both media and social media to be able to reach out to public at large to convey an unbiased and a true Bharatiya style narrative of Bharat, which is India. So far in our journey of 20 years, we have been able to compile over 500 hours of multimedia content, produce about 100 volumes of books called the Autobiography of India, 35 of them in printed form, in paper as well as on Kindle, as well as 65 of them as online books which are hosted on our website for reading online. We call them the mini books. We have produced documentaries, we have produced more than 300 plus short films that are hosted on our channels for public at large. But despite all of this, it is still only in the English medium and reachable only to a large percentage of the English audiences. We would now like to take this to people across India and the globe in different languages, and also create more content which is more relevant to local topics of conversation on global stage. So with this project, we hope to create and disseminate engaging content that highlight the sustainable, principled and nature-aligned Bharatiya way of living and practicing industry, of showcasing the long timeline of the Bharatiya civilization's history, as well as drawing attention to the historiography method of the civilization, which is very different from the way we see and understand what history is all about today. We also hope to draw attention of everybody to how the civilization had integrated science and spirituality both in thought and practices. Because as we all realize today, the world is a mix of both the manifested and unmanifested, and we need a good blend of both to be able to see reality as a whole and to be able to align with that reality. We also hope to highlight how the civilization has straddled both unity as well as diversity in all aspects of life and society. And what are the lessons that we can learn from this so that we can bring back this kind of a style of living in the world today, which is torn with strife all over. And the underlying ethos of the civilization that enabled all this above is what we would like to showcase so that there is some learning that people can gain from this. And for all of this, we would like to leverage modern technologies with animation, graphics, virtual reality, augmented reality, etc., so that we can create a more impactful viewing material which can be disseminated across social media. The reason we choose social media is because the attention span of the present generation, millennial generation, is very small, and also we want to reach a larger audience across the globe. And social media itself is today coming with a lot of challenges of its own as platforms change, as platforms grow, and therefore this project is also not only to generate content but to make a concerted effort to ensure that this narrative permeates through all these different media and permeates across the world to convey the deeper thought of this civilization. Fundamentally, the idea of Stuti is to also present a very positive, factual, content-rich, engaging, educational knowledge about this civilization in a non-political, non-abrasive, non-abusive and a non-confronting manner. In Bharat Gyan, over the last 20 years, we have been very careful to maintain an apolitical stand, be non-abrasive, non-abusive, and even when we speak about issues that are on the center stage in the globe, we do so in a non-confronting but in an educational manner as to what has been the thought of the civilization, because this civilization too has faced similar issues, and how did they handle it? What are the lessons we can learn to handle the same in present times? And we hope to take it to both common man as well as people who are researching about the civilization, who are researching in various other disciplines, so that this knowledge base can inspire them as well. We see this entire endeavor of ours as a 5-step transformation endeavor. Fundamentally, first, create a feel-good factor and a confidence among people with the knowledge about the civilization. Create a dare in them to be able to apply this knowledge, to draw inspiration from this knowledge, to draw confidence from the success of the civilization for millennia, not just a few decades, but for millennia. And by drawing attention to the global ties that this civilization has had with various other ancient civilizations, we hope to re-establish the millennial old connects with these civilizations. And once you have this kind of a connect, it is going to lead to open-minded sharing, and hopefully all this can help us attain new breakthroughs in science, in sustainability, as well as in our social lives across the world. Our focus areas therefore have been on the geography of this civilization, the antiquity and history of the civilization right from the times of historical personages as well as divinities for this civilization like Rama, Krishna, Jaina, Buddha and so on, who have led this civilization to come to where we are today. We also look at the commerce, the economy, prosperity of this civilization and how they manage the resources available to them like water, land, the vegetation, because fundamentally there has been a misconception, also portrayal of this civilization as a very poor civilization, whereas we have been a very prosperous civilization across millennia. And how did this civilization attain this prosperity, maintain this prosperity, and how it can regain this prosperity? What are the lessons for other civilizations as well from the way this civilization has handled its prosperity in a very balanced manner? Because prosperity can also lead to degeneration if not managed well. So how did they manage that with ethos and character? What were the societal and governing practices adopted by the civilization to have this balance? What were all the intellectual pursuits in the fields of sciences, technologies, as well as spirituality? How did this civilization express itself culturally to be able to show the unity as well as diversity in through all its arts, crafts, its festivals? The very word used for festivals, which is utsav, shows that these were created to uplift the civilizations. What are all the meaning and the reasons why these celebrations and traditions were created, and why did they call them utsav, which means to uplift? It comes from the root ut, meaning to rise up. And we look at all the global connects. We focus on the global connects over the millennia with various ancient civilizations, and not only that but also the regional connects within the land. So right from looking at this civilization as Bharat Mata, we also look at how each of the different regions had also created and celebrated their regions using a local flavor of a motherland. Like for instance, the Telugu land with the Telugu Talli, the Tamil land with the Tamil Thai, Karnataka with the Kannada Ambe, Odisha with the Utkala Janani, Assam Ai, Kashmira Puravasini, and so on. So we also focus on how these different regions had celebrated their own unique, diverse strengths as well as integrated with each other very well. The USP for Bharath Gyan, we feel, is one, the range and depth of knowledge in various subjects that we have compiled, both in the form of base content as well as that we have published. The presentation formats that we have chosen so far and are proposing to use in future as well, and our interactive style of presenting, namely by provoking with questions. So far all our works contain the style of questioning, asking questions because we would like to promote youngsters to think and seek answers to these questions, which has been the innate nature in which this civilization had sought knowledge and found it themselves. And we have been able to appeal to both youngsters and elders alike, and we would like to integrate the modern delivery technologies to take this further in the future.
This brings us to the scale of the project and how long we plan to do this project. We have been engaged in this work already from the year 2000, and Bharat Gyan is known today for the amount of output that we have delivered in various formats. What is needed is this output has to be scaled up in quantity, quality, as well as speed. While on one side the content has to be generated, a lot of content, relevant content in suitable formats as well as suitable languages, on the other side we also need a dedicated team that can keep positioning this content, especially on social media. As seen on social media is very dynamic, platforms keep changing, newer platforms keep emerging. There is a need for a team that can ensure permeation of this content across various media to reach the nooks and corners of this land in their appropriate languages and format. And if we want to see a meaningful impact on the Bharatiya narrative, we would need a minimum of at least 5 years and sustain this work for that long, because there is that much of content that can be shared with the people. Ideally, a 10-year long period would be a good time to create a good repository, but at least a minimum of 5 years of commitment would be needed to sustain and create a narrative on the Bharatiya civilization. As far as Bharat Gyan is concerned, it is a charitable trust, and fundamentally the activities have been funded for the last 20 years through our own personal contributions. But for us to venture into this kind of a large scale project, we would need commitment of funding for at least about 5 years, so that would enable us to take this bold step with a dedicated content development team as well as a dedicated content promotion team.
So the requirements are going to be in the nature of manpower as well as other resources. Manpower fundamentally in the form of scribes who under our guidance can author blog articles on topics of relevance, as well as a film production team that can produce these short animation films, as well as the VR and AR team who can develop suitable content for people across the globe to experience the culture of this civilization. This is with respect to production of the content. We would then need a team that can position this content and promote this content on social media for maximum reach. We would need a lot of translators to translate this across the many Indian languages as well as foreign languages, and some amount of administration support to manage all these activities. Other resources would be in the nature of creating and setting up an animation studio, editing labs, ability to create or procure suitable music, procure other footages necessary, as well as the logistics, the space and other things that can help this team to function and produce the content. Therefore, the funding that would be in the form of capex needs to set up the studios, for which we have given a breakup, as well as funds to keep operating on a regular basis consistently, as we said, at least for about 10 years to make a good impact. And if you see, it is this operational costs which are going to be high, fundamentally because of the kind of number and kind of manpower that we will have to deploy. More than the production, it actually boils down to a large translation team. Because of the large number of Indian languages, at least we hope to translate into a minimum of 12 languages, and the various other kind of expenses that go along with having to do production at this level. So if you look at the total annual needs, it is for the first year that we would need both the capex and the opex. And subsequently, we only hope to increase the capex by about 15% per year for replacements and things like that. But OPEX, if you look at it, will grow at a rate of inflation every year. And total needs, if you see, they take a dip after the first year, but then eventually inflation catches up and the OPEX keeps growing higher. And we would need commitment from people who would like to fund this project so that we can sustain it for a longer duration. Otherwise, it would be meaningless to just start it off for a year or two. This project Stuti is very critical if we want to position a true, factual, positive narrative about this civilization. This has been missing in the global arena ever since colonization of the world started. Not only missing, it has been convoluted, it has been debunked, and subsequently dominated by communist pseudo-secular narratives and also non-Indic, non-Bharatiya perspective narratives. The traditional scholars and elders who can help fill this gap and provide the right perspective are also few and slowly vanishing. So there is an urgency in taking up a project of this nature because the pride and confidence in this knowledge base is also slowly diminishing. So it needs all the boost that we can give. For the millennial generation, unfortunately, there's hardly any authentic documentation available in the formats in which they would like to consume. Even those formats that we, our generation, liked and enjoyed and consumed during our days, unfortunately, are not even sought after by the present generation. So if we leave things as they are now, the history and knowledge of the civilization will be reset to just the Mughal and colonial era. The indigenous ethos, values, and ethics and style of working in a sustainable manner will soon be forgotten. Now, there are many projects where people are taking to social media to educate people world over about the Bharatiya civilization. We would like to make it a sustained effort and create a go-to place, fundamentally a go-to place which is not just an impersonal search engine or just a lookup engine, but a place which is having a curated, coherent narrative, a narrative that integrates the ethos and values with facts. Because that is what has been a true Bharatiya style narrative, and we would like to present a face that is willing to stand up to these facts that is published. So this go-to place has to be a place that can evolve as a fountain of inspirational, wisdom-filled knowledge from the past to help us connect with ourselves better, to leapfrog into the future with pride, confidence and dare. That is why we call this project itself as Stuti, where we would like to share the untold truths of the Indic civilization as well as sing praise and adulation about this civilization for people to start emulating these ethos and values. For if you see at the bottom, it is always matter of confidence and dare. Building up confidence in the Indian ethos, in the Indian ways, and the dare to follow these ethos and these ways.
We'd like to take this opportunity to thank Sri Ramesh Nuneji, who introduced us to Richa Gautamji, who in turn introduced us to Vikramaditya Strategic Initiative. So we think this is how, again, a very nice method of one introducing us to the other, thereon to the other, where it's a chain, it's a wonderful, it's like a relay race, this whole knowledge system of this land, and doing something, all of us here coming together in our own ways and building this up back so that we can create a nice narrative about this land. We would like to once again thank each one, all the scholars who helped us through the ages, all the good friends who helped us through the ages in bringing all this together so that our generation and more importantly the next generation can relish this knowledge and use this knowledge of our civilization, Bharath Gyan, in a sustainable, nice way so that we can once again have the confidence and the dare to go forward.
And we would like to thank all the patrons of Vikramaditya Strategic Initiative who will be helping us go forward and take this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Dhanyavada.
That was something, Richa.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, I've been always blown away by, many of the videos that I've seen of both, Hema ji and DK Hari ji. So I think there is one question, Omi ji. May I take that before I hand it over
Please
to
do
you?
that. Please
So
do
one
that.
of the questions is, I think it makes a lot of sense. Can you monetize the content that you've created over so many years via games, books, and educational materials? I think that is happening. Am I right?
Yes, yes, it's already happening, but let's recognize books. All it's not a the amount of effort, money, and time you put into books was to prepare quality content, well researched. The real monetization is so low; it doesn't even cover the cost. That's the reality. It doesn't cover probably a small portion of the cost. That's one. The other thing is games and all. See, people want to play it, but nobody wants to pay for it. So
Yes,
if you popularize this, then you have to popularize it as a social entrepreneurship. So
absolutely.
the education material. So when you put it up for free read, there are hardly a few thousand people who go towards it. But if you put it up as a video to watch, you have many thousand people watching it. So the medium of interaction, engagement has changed over the last decade or two. So you have to substantiate your videos with quality reading material for them to go back to, as there's only a small percentage that wants to go back and know more factually on print, which is online today. So everything is online today, luckily. So, but the way forward is visual, audio-visual mediums.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Please go ahead, Chaji.
No, I think I'll let you talk because, I know there's a lot of interest for this project. And one of the things, just a few days ago on Suhail Dev's, that inauguration, Modi ji announced that, we are going to rewrite history and, we are not going to let the fake narratives continue anymore. So I don't know. I feel like the kind of research that you've done over so many years is perfectly poised to be part of that official textbooks, official narratives. I hope if people are watching, and maybe you can tell us more, if there is something like that in the pipeline for Bharat Gyan, or is that something you would be looking for in the future?
Yeah, I'll answer that. Before that, I think Omendra ji, he put up his finger. Any other point you'd like to add, Omendra ji?
No, please answer that, then I will come in. Please answer that.
See, in the Bharatiya civilization, it has always been a multi-pronged approach. It's never been a single-pronged approach. So it has to be a multiple effort of multiple scholars, multiple effort. The government also has to put in its effort through policy systems. Each individual or organizations like us, yourself, each one of us, and the minimum good noble people doing parallelly good noble work, some little senior to us, some who come in later, collectively, so it must be jointly and severally. So that is how the civilization has survived through the millennia. So it's not a central approach, which is again a very Western approach to have one approach, a centralized approach, whereas our thought itself is very decentralized. Our perspectives are decentralized. It is that decentralism, not just decentralized approach, the idea of decentralism that's actually taken forward the Dharmic civilization over the millennia, or the trials and tribulations that time has thrown at us. So that is a core ethos. Actually, in our from India, that's one full chapter we've written about what is this idea of decentralism. See, decentralized is a process, whereas decentralism is an idea. Because there is no one central thought to anything. There is no one central guru. There is no one central rishi. There is no only one central book. So there's a multi-perspective. So all of us have to do our bit to dharma. That is when we all see the word dharma itself should explain beautifully.
Fundamentally, dharma is, we often confuse it with religion. But if you go look at the root itself, dharma is what you dhar, what you bear. So it is your character, your nature as a human in many roles that you perform. So each one, all of us in our different roles, we all take up different causes and highlight. Each cause has to be highlighted. So each of us have to bring out our own narrative of the various aspects. So we are open to working with the government if they approach us and would like us. At the same time, we do not want to leave it there, but continue to do our bit at least and take it forward.
See, that's why when she said the word dharma, dar means to bear. That's why dharti, because it's a dharti that bears us.
Yes, Omendraji.
Okay, thank you so much. This has been a brilliant presentation for the simple reason that I am actively involved right now in writing a book on Mewar Maharanas, and it's been an earth-shattering experience for me in every which way. The scale of lies that have been taught to us in our schools, how Akbar the debauch has been turned into Akbar the Great. So my question is, just I'll give half a minute and then I'll ask my question. Not a day passes in my life when I don't curse Gandhi and Nehru for what they have done to this country. But there's one thing I thank Gandhi for, and that is he did not let our Dalit Sahodaras drift away. He gave us the idea of Harijan, and for that singular service, he must be excused. And one good thing that Nehru did was to create linguistic states. Because with the beauty of Sanatan Dharma, all these linguistic states have taken care of their language, the literature, and they have blossomed in the past 70 years. And Kannada, Telugu, Tamil, individual languages, Marathi, they have given us such gems of literature that at every cost, the local literature, the language should be preserved. So my question is your work Tamil oriented or genetically Indic languages oriented? What is the and then because then we can go to, as you had I think during the presentation you had said that we need translators, then we can start working on it. What's your primary work of focus, in which language? That's what I mean.
Obviously, we as belong to this generation, we have primarily focused our work in English language because that's the medium that both of us studied in. That's what we have done, and obviously we are aware of a few Indic languages also. But it is not focused on a region, be it south or west or north. We have looked at it as a pan-Bharatiya perspective. And when you say Bharatiya, there are two levels of Bharatiya. One is Bharata Varsha and the other is Bharata Khanda. Bharata Varsha is the land. Actually, you can see a short film on what is Bharata Varsha geographically. It's called Varsha, Varsha, Varsha. You can see that. So it tells you what is Bharata Varsha. There's again Bharata. The continent of Bharata is different from the land of Bharata. The two levels to it. So we have to bring this perspective and understand it so that there are nuggets strewn all over, and they're not very deep. They just they're just on the surface. Just got to bend down and pick them up. That is what strings the narrative. That's why you.
Got it. So your primary work has been in English. We need to translate this into the local languages. Thank you so much. You've been very kind. I think.
I had one last question, about, I know that you said you're not accepting donations for Stuti project, but what about Bharat Gyan? Is that more of a non-profit? And so people, if they want to volunteer or connect with you.
Yes, please. Welcome. So, see, what we said is Stuti project. What we said is we want donations, obviously, but it was not small donation. What is one or two people
sponsoring
this project, because this needs, as she said a couple of times, it needs a long-term commitment to take a full narrative forward, and it cannot happen in installments because you have to set up a whole team, a studio, because you can't outsource for one shot film, then there's no string to it. As you get a donation, if you outsource for one studio, then the next for another studio, there's no string. You have to create a coherent, cohesive narrative that transcends across languages, states, boundaries, topics, etc. So you need that coherence to set it right.
Thank you.
We are looking actually for, it is a charitable trust. We are registered under 12AA and ATG, and we are looking for sponsors who can look at projects of this scale and help us take this forward. Like we said, it is a social, you can't expect too much of monetization and returns. So it has to be of a social nature, of a giving nature. And we need people who will then be, who will stick with us so that we can then take the bold step forward.
Absolutely. So we have shared your information in the comment section, and I will continue to forward it around as as we go on. So thank you so much. Very, very amazing work. Thank you.
We'll continue to keep doing it on our own scale till then. And
Absolutely.
we look forward to kicking this project up and starting it very quickly. Thank you.
Namaste and all the best.